Greetings, opera lovers. It's Rona from Pittsburgh. Well, I wasn't able to watch that many live-streamed operas from Europe this summer as I had planned to, but I was able to catch on repeat the Don Carlo from the Salzburg Festival. As many of you know, this was highly anticipated. This has been a great year for Verdi and Wagner as we are celebrating the 200th anniversary of each of their births. And so this is Verdi's turn. This is an opera I know fairly well. In fact, when I looked on my playlist, I've already reviewed 2 other productions that I have seen in the last 3 years. And I've seen others as well. So for some reason, Don Carlo is having a very big run. There was a lot written about this particular production. And before I decided to watch it and tell you what I thought about it, I figured I'd read online what the other reviewers thought so that I would know whether or not I was in agreement or disagreement with them, because there seemed to be a wide variety of opinions about the production. I will tell you, I was not at all influenced by what they said, because my opinions are my opinions, be they right or wrong. In some cases, I agreed 100% with them, and in others, I know I'm going to be the dissenting voice. So we'll start off with the production, which seemed to garner the most negative press. Deservedly so. There were 2 things about this production. One were the sets, and the other was the director. Now, since these are names of people I don't really know, I have to use my cheat sheet and tell you. The stage director was Peter Stein, and it was called the Stein version. The set designer was Ferdinand Vergebauer, and he's the one who fell down because the sets did not draw me in. I was completely disengaged from this opera right after the orchestra started playing. First, Anthony Pappano led the Vienna Philharmonic, not a shabby orchestra by any stretch of the imagination, in a beautifully done start to the opera. Everything was so nuanced and crisp. You just were filled with anticipation for this great opera that's going to come up. Because if you're someone like me, you know this opera. You know a majority of the music. You know, of course, the story. And then the curtain parts and you see, plugh. First, it's all just ashy colors. I read where the costumes were of historic nature. I guess I was absent the day that that in class they told you what peasants or people in France wore in the 1600s. Didn't look like anything I've ever seen. I didn't like it at all. And in the back was a sort of a backdrop of a building with windows and bars on it. What is this? This is the Fontainebleau scene? Come on. It reminded me of an Etch-a-Sketch. And so went my feelings down the tubes. I could not get involved in the beginning of this opera at all. We start off with 2 of today's greatest singers. And I would just like to say that during this little chat that I'm going to give you, I can't say enough about the great singing of Jonas Kaufmann and Anja Harteros, who also were in the production that was done in Munich last year. There was quite a bit of a vocal difference between them last year and this year, but we'll get to that later. They have a wonderful chemistry together, but I sort of didn't care because the backdrop was so empty. One reviewer said that he thought it was on purpose that the backdrop was so empty to show the emptiness of Carlo's heart. I didn't get that at all. So there I go, disagreeing with one reviewer. The first act played itself out, and as I say, I was really disappointed in spite of the fact that I'm hearing 2 absolutely great singers at the top of their game. And then we get the opera moves on. This is not to give you a synopsis. This talk is not to give you a synopsis of the opera. If you're watching this, you know what the opera is about. And when they leave France and go back to Spain, we meet Eboli. Somehow in my feed, I did not get to hear her sing her little song in the garden. I actually listened to the act again to see, maybe I forgot where it was and I was distracted. It did not appear in my feed. What can I tell you? The woman who played Eboli is a new name to me. I believe she's Russian. Her name is Ekaterina Semenchuk. Here again, I disagree with some of the reviewers. I thought she was terrific in every single way. O Don Fatale is one of the iconic arias for a dramatic mezzo. She pulled it off perfectly. I have not one complaint to say about it. And she has to hold herself up against some of my favorite Ebolis of all time. I think my two favorites were Shirley Verrett and Tatiana Troyanos. People are always lamenting, we don't have singers like we did in the past. Oh, boo-boo. This is so ridiculous. There was so much great singing today. So she was terrific. And then we have the great role of Rodrigo, the Marquis of Posa, or whatever his name is. I'm terrible with names. I can't remember my own children's names. How am I supposed to remember opera characters' names? He was sung by Thomas Hampson, a very accomplished and well-regarded singer. Many people asked me what I thought of his singing before I had heard the opera, and I told them I hadn't heard it, and they said he was so fabulous, he was so moving, that his portrayal was one of the most sensitive they had ever seen of Rodrigo. So, of course, I was looking forward with great anticipation to this. And as soon as he started singing, I was, ay, ay, ay. This was not his best day, or maybe it's not his best role. One reviewer wrote that he would be the Posa of choice, the Rodrigo of choice. In what world? He's really not a great Verdi baritone, although he does a lot of them. I heard him live doing Simon Boccanegra. He did a fine job. It's just not what I would call a great Verdi baritone instrument. But I will say that in his ensemble singing, he was much better. And he died really well, which you have to do in order to sing this role well. The most disappointing roles were the two bassos. I'm sorry. Matti Salminen and Eric Halfvarson are both great singers. But their wobbles and frailties were in great evidence. Although I have to say that Matti Salminen added a lot of dignity to his portrayal, which you absolutely need. I always look forward to Ella Jemima Mo, and in this case, I was dreading it. It was not terrible. It was not great. It just was. And so the opera goes on. Then we get to the last act. And I have to say that the singing that Miss Harteros did was among the greatest I have ever heard. I have mentioned before that I admire her tremendously as a singer. I admire her even more now. She was even better this year than she was, I think it was about a year and a half or a year and 3/4 ago that I saw and heard her last Elisabetta. She was just fabulous. Her vocalism was beyond belief. And Jonas Kaufmann also, when he came out and sang, it was the top tier level of singing that you can hear today. The audience gave large rounds of applause to everyone. I heard that the audience really loved Thomas Hampson. He got a very good round of applause, but I think deservedly so, the largest recognition was given to Miss Harteros and Mr. Kaufmann, two of the greatest singers on the stage today. And just for the last act, I was glad I saw it. Other than that, the stage director did not go along with the stage sets. And so I was disappointed in that. Oh well, my opinion only. Hope you all have a great day and are enjoying the end of this summer.